Hello, friends, and welcome to the Companion. We're here at episode 8 tonight. I'm so excited to be joined by Ian to discuss 8/13/93, the Murat Theater in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
The famous Murat Theater, I guess.
It's famous now after this show. And at least in the Phish world. And yeah, this is certainly a show with a lot of lore around it. It's a famous show. It's one you hear about pretty early on, mostly for the performance of the bathtub gin in the second set. But before I even hear anything that Sam has to say about this show, I can pretty much guarantee you that he is going to say that this bathtub gin isn't even the highlight of the show. We'll see.
You know me too well. I am going to go out on a limb because the bathtub gin was always the first thing to jump to, even when the official release came out in 2002, and I was so excited to hear the perfect recordings. That's the first thing I listened to, and I'll go on the limb saying it's one of the worst things of this show. But I understand the significance.
Right.
The show, top to bottom, is really special. I'm really excited to get into it.
It is. I agree. I kind of like... my memories of this show were always just that, oh yeah, the bathtub gin and the mics are really great. And that's always what I remember. But, and I've heard the whole show before, but just listening to it all the way through, I was even halfway through the first set, I was thinking, how did I not remember how incredible this first set is?
It's fresh ears and some time.
I was sold on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember getting tapes of the 12th the night before this. Mm-hmm. Really good sounding tapes of that. And the second set is what's talked about. There's the Tweezer Landlady sandwich and stuff. But the first set of 8/12 absolutely blew my mind. I wore that tape out.
Right.
Because just top to bottom, it's perfection. And the Reba is the big jam. I think it comes as a second song in that. And it's really out there and very avant-garde for that song. But everything else is tight. Like every little detail. And that's kind of how the show, especially the first set, was.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, they say there's this sort of like, depending on what the first song is and how it's played, lots of times you can kind of get a sense for what's going to follow. And even though, well, I guess I would say the first song of the show is called Lengthwise. And all of that is just kind of like a word, like a poem, a very simple, repetitive poem that is on the Rift album that isn't really ever performed live. Only performed a few times. And this particular time opens up the show, which is kind of unusual. And then it was performed in a very unusual fashion. And I think you really can tell by just a couple of minutes into the show that the band is in one of those moods. And it's just gonna be a winner.
They set that tone. It's tone. I think they set that really quickly.
Right.
And it goes from that little spoken 2-sentence poem to a really interesting sort of improvised piece into the next song. But it's showing we are willing to stretch anything anywhere.
Right.
And the ears are so big right off the bat. And you tasked me with discussing the details of the practice room sessions.
Oh, sure.
And what they were doing in the practice room. And as much as like getting into the whole hay hole and fill your own hay hole and all that stuff, I think what happened with the band between the spring and summer of 93 is more the confidence as well as just personal performance levels of all the musicians really jumped.
Right.
Like there is not a weak moment by all four of them this entire show.
That's true.
And they're all willing to step forward. They're willing to step back, and they're willing to take, like Fluffhead, which I'm jumping ahead a little. We'll get there. They're able to stretch the moments. Tiny little compositional moments where, even late 90s and, 2 and 3.0 Phish would fall on their face a lot during these moments. Mm-hmm. This was them taking those and turning them inside out because they're so confident in the composition. And it was showcased all the way through the show, right off the bat. Very, very impressive.
Yeah. I wrote down brilliant almost there mini compositions, like
Yeah.
throughout
Yeah.
every song, throughout the whole show. Is it just me, and maybe it was my headphones, and how I was listening to it, but it almost seemed like virtually every song on the first set had some sort of um, rhythmic element that was unique. Like, not like, almost like every song was either a little bit faster or a little bit slower, or Fishman was doing a slightly different drum beat, but I just feel
Yeah.
like it all had this kind of slightly different feel to it. Like,
Felt fresh.
yeah, this sort of, and I guess maybe it's this new tour. This is the first show we've listened to this tour, but compared to some of these versions of songs that we've heard, over the past couple of years from the first 7 episodes, yeah. And I was gonna say, I just watched this little YouTube video interview of Trey from May 1993, kind of talking about what it is to be in Phish, and he was kind of talking about how there was this one writer at the New York Times who kept writing these horribly mean articles about Phish, and how their albums are generally like ranked as like the worst albums of the year, and they had been that year, and how because they've let the fans have these free tapes, and they're gaining popularity. And then there was like interview with some of the fans, and the fans were like classic East Coast frat boys, so embarrassing to watch. I mean, it was just like it was like everything they were saying, I probably have said myself in my own way, so that's probably why it was double embarrassing. But just their enthusiasm was the kind of enthusiasm that just you've never seen for other bands. For like, these guys loved, it was like 10 dudes just reciting the lyrics to Reba. But Trey seemed like, I don't know, he seemed like kind of weirded out by how much they were loved, but really excited by it. And he was kind of talking about Fishnet even then, and about how a couple of hours after the show, the whole set list will be up. People will have written exactly what he said in between songs. Like, they were already doing it in 93, and the band was completely aware of it. So he even said by that point in May of 93 that they felt the pressure every night to make sure that they never repeated themselves, that they had all new jokes or all new gags, and that they were doing something different every night. And they really were attempting to do that, and you can really hear it in this show.
The amount of work put in is on display.
Yes.
I mean, I remember reading one of the reviews of this show, and I think it used the word, they called it the speed jazz period of Phish, which I didn't like, but I liked that approach of they're not attempting. I mean, the Highway to Hell encore is the perfect example of like, we're just still a rock and roll band, and they always fall back on those roots, but I think they're attempting to really, break some new ground and enter into new territory as musicians, as far as what is played in a traditional rock setting. And they'd always been doing that, but they really broke it open this week.
Right.
I probably should read the excerpt from the Phish Companion. I love this, but it's kind of right in the middle of August. It says 8/13 to 8/20, best week of Phish ? Which we're about to do 3 shows from this week.
Right.
And I'm really excited for all 3 of them. But it says, if there is a single inflection point in the arc of Phish history after which things were never the same, it may well be the Murat gin. So again, it's pointing to this moment.
Yeah.
The idea of Type 2 jams didn't even exist yet, but when they, or even noteworthy Type 1 jams did occur, it was confined to certain songs. And then the Murat gin happened. After that, nothing was off limits. Any song could fill any role, and there were no rules as to how out there the band could get. So this goes on and on. It discusses the whole week and all these real high points of the week. But I think that really sums it up, that you feel it in this show. Mm-hmm. They're listening so well that they're not shy about going anywhere at any time, and they're all so on board.
even the Foam, which is already an experimental song, this is kind of
Yeah.
an experimental version of it.
Oh, my first response to Foam just said, "My God." Like it was, I mean, I know your love for that song. This
Yeah.
one was, the pre-page little mini jam before his solo,
Right.
and then Trey, like his halfway through, he's scat singing along, which is not. And I wrote, "Who the fuck else is making music like this?" Like
It's true,
it was
but
so out there, and
even the
so
scatting
beautiful.
is like, it's like classy scatting. It's not even
It's
like
jazzish.
beat up, but he's like, it's like very quiet. He's like just like
Yeah.
like he's plinking on his guitar very lightly. He's doing his scatting very lightly, and it adds such a tremendous layer to that
Yeah.
moment. And I also
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
you're
We
right.
can't
Okay.
get too far past. So we'll go back to the top, the lengthwise opener, but then the first headphones in the book is the Llama, song 2.
Right. Although I have to say, I just want to point out in this lengthwise that Trey just starts doing this sort of like thing with his guitar, where I guess, I don't know, how would you describe what he's doing with his guitar? The sort of like
They're like
making it
volume
kind of like a
swells,
violin.
kind of.
What's that?
Yeah, they're volume swells, so you can
Yeah.
hit a note and just ride your volume knob.
Right, but it adds such like a creepy
Yeah.
dimension to that song.
Well, this was Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
and this venue, I looked into the venue. It's small,
Right.
and it's this like ancient Masonic temple. It's
Right.
still there as a music venue, and like the pictures of it from the inside are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the show we'll discuss in episode 9 at Tinley Park. I was at Tinley Park in '97 and saw the show there that summer. It's over 30,000.
Right.
It is massive, and they didn't even sell out the pavilion section. But this show has that intimate feel of a theater show. And I think, maybe it was Friday the 13th, maybe there was a weird vibe in the air, but it is spooky right off the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it away with the Llama.
Spooky. The whole headphones thing I like. I like that it's, hey, you really should go and listen to these songs, but I would headphones this whole set.
Yeah.
Like the Llama's great, and that there's a jam in Llama, an actual full band jam rather than just Page solo, Trey solo.
Right.
Which was fantastic. And they didn't overspeed this Llama. I feel like, they can start it too fast. Also a weird, like, lengthwise to Llama, such an interesting way to open. And then the jump to Makasupa. Like,
right.
I just, such a weird set list opening, and all, like, the styles of music in this first set are so vast.
Right.
And that trio to open really, I thought, set the table.
And the Makasupa, I'd like to add, kind of finishes with Trey doing the same guitar volume swell effect that he was doing in lengthwise to kind of tie that in. And then we're just about to jump into Foam, which will be the next song. And I did notice at the end of Foam, towards the end of Foam, Trey did like, he strummed in a way that was like he was starting Okipa Ceremony. And like I heard it and I was like, Okipa! And then it just kind of kept going. And then sure enough, Okipa at the end of the next set. And I just love those sort of like, I don't know, it seems very organic in that maybe he kind of hit that note and the subconscious part of his brain heard it. And then later in the show, he was like, oh, we should play it. Or
there's so many teases in this show. And I think a lot of the shows we've done had a bunch of teases. Yeah. And I know you enjoy myself during this period was just a tease fest a lot of the time.
Sure.
But in this show, they're so tastefully done.
That's right.
There's a lot of gentle, subtle.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And we'll get, when we get to the end of the set, we'll get more into that. But then the Foam, which we discussed, goes into Stash.
Right.
And we've just also, every podcast episode so far, Stash has kind of always been a real mainstay jam vehicle, and this was no exception.
It wasn't. And then it kind of like, this was one of those jams for me where Trey gets, I don't know if sloppy is the right word, but he's getting impressionistic. He's definitely like letting himself loosen up a little bit. And I think when the jam starts, he starts playing these sort of wild runs that are a little bit not necessarily out of key, but they're hitting some parts of your body that you're like, ooh. But he kind of reins it in and he keeps repeating, and then he just
it's very delicate, very
and then he just
nimble.
finds it. Yeah.
And there's a big ears. I wrote just such big ears right at the beginning. Everyone is, I mean, this is the practice room stuff. If you listen to the first 3 or 4 minutes of the jam, that's really practice room stuff. They're all listening to each other. They're moving really gently in different directions. And then right around 8 minutes, Mike kind of grabs onto a line and it shifts the course. And then Trey really jumps in and it kind of finishes off through Stash.
Right.
But it's such a smooth, all of it, the improv. And, later Phish, the big, long jams could take a while to get from A to B.
Sure.
And in this show, none of them take a while. They're all very quick on the transition. But this one especially is very gentle and smooth. And it was perfectly done.
That's true, and even not even necessarily later Phish. I can even just think of a show from the week before, at 8/9/93, which I think is Toronto, and which is a killer show. I think the week before this week, maybe it's not as good, but it's still one of those best.
Oh, there's
weeks.
So many good shows from that week. Yeah,
but yeah, that show has like a split that really gets uncomfortable in its repetition, and it's on purpose. But I remember that one the first time I heard it, where I was just like, okay, it's taken a while to get there. They're really making me wait for this.
Yeah,
at least for a 93 show. So it can go both ways, I think, in terms of how fast they get to the goods. But yeah,
I think it's balancing too. Yeah. If you're a player, when you find a line, and I think it happens, that line Mike lands on for a minute, when you find a line and you really enjoy that line, you want it to just keep going. And with a band this tight that coalesces around that line, that's kind of the hey-hole exercises is I'm stepping forward and I'm presenting this. And once everyone locks into it, somebody else can present something and we'll shift away.
Right.
And as a musician, finding that line that really resonates and having a band that jumps in around you and fills in is the best feeling in the world.
Right.
It's like, the 97, 98 Phish, the best jams were that. And I think that band was so, they call it the drug years, but I think they were taking things slower then. It wasn't so hyped up and pushed as this. Right. So sometimes it could take a long time.
Yeah.
But this was just, you could feel once everyone was locked in, they were ready to gently move away from it. And it was great.
That's true. They didn't stick on it quite as long, and that's why it wasn't as much of a dance party. That's why it was more of sort of like this overwhelming emotional oral experience, and it became more of a dance party later.
It was exhausting.
It was exhausting. And
these shows.
I can think of a lot of 3.0 shows where they kind of, they find that groove and then they stick on it for a while, maybe leave, come back to it. I think in 3.0, they're really good at sort of like, they'll find something, they'll leave, they'll come back, they'll leave, they'll come back. Whereas maybe in like the late 90s, they were more just like, we found it, let's stick here for a while,
Yeah.
And that's cool. So they've gone through different periods of how they react to those sections. But Stash was great. Don't know if I'd necessarily say it was like worlds better than previous Stashes we've heard, but it was
just great.
It was a peer. Then we're on to Ginseng Sullivan. Cool
the butt with number. Protruding arms and legs.
Yep.
I don't know how there's a lot of Trey insulting Fishman lines out there, and this one was aggressive.
And I also think this show had a lot of not banter, but a lot of band talking and making vocal additions to the music. I feel like a lot of the songs had a lot of talking in them, which is actually kind of unusual.
Yeah, very
that goes
cool.
to speak to their mood. I think.
Yeah, and this was the Madonna washboard,
Right.
which the filler you can hear them working on it during the sound check.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of unnecessary filler. There is a moment, they call it like I don't remember, the Indianapolis Jam or something, and it's them practicing hay exercises.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of cool if you want an example of it in a sound check. There, it is in the filler of the show. But yeah, and this is where I wrote how many styles of music have we heard so far? I mean, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs in,
Yeah.
and all of them are insanely different
Right.
in their structures and their styles, and they all don't fit exactly into a reggae or bluegrass, or they're slightly outside the norm. It's great.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then Fluffhead, which I hadn't listened to this one in a while,
Uh-huh.
but this is one of the best Fluffheads I think ever.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll stand on that.
Yeah.
I was blown away with every part of it.
Yeah,
Straight from the top.
I think the only thing that kind of holds it back a little bit is the fact that like the composed part at the beginning isn't like absolutely flawless. Is that a
Yes.
problem for me? No, it's not a problem for me, but it isn't flawless.
Sure.
But once it gets going, and certainly the energy, and like I kind of said before, like weird kind of like tempo changes and rhythmic flourishes, and just Mike in general. Like you mentioned that all four of them were playing so strongly throughout this show, but at this point in the career, when Mike has like a really strong show, I feel like he really stands out.
Yeah.
And
And Page's solos were insane. All those mini solos through the whole thing.
Yeah, I actually wrote a little like kind of separate thing about here. At this time in the 90s, was there anybody else, any band that was bringing like these classic sort of like Elton John piano style, like piano jams to shows? Like I just can't think of any. I just feel like at that time it just wasn't a popular, like Ben Folds kind of came out later. And I remember when Ben Folds came, and I was like, oh, look, kind of piano music is back again. But that was like one of the things that I really loved about Phish was it was like the only band where you could really like hear a piano player just going off and doing some improvising and taking the lead as opposed to a guitar.
It freed them up to do more styles of music, I think, and more traditional styles.
Right. And even compared to the Dead, which, the Dead had like a strong keyboard presence, but I don't feel like Keith, really beautiful, and I love his music, but it was like kind of supportive and it was washy, and it wasn't so much of a lead instrument, so much as the way Page uses it, where he's actually kind of creating melodies and different arms to the song itself, where he's taking the lead, and he really is just killing it in this show.
Yeah, and then so the arrival happens, and it's a very classic, big, beautiful. But then it drops out in the last minute or so. They actually have another little micro jam at the end. And then it showcases where they are in their playing this night, where they're,
Right.
normally the show, it would just fade out
Right.
and Trey arpeggiates the chords and it comes to an end, but they turn that into this tight little tiny mini jam at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that really showcases where, there's nothing off limits.
And to me,
It's
that's
very
like an
impressive.
example of something that they're doing for themselves, not for the audience. I mean, there was probably, a few people in the audience that noticed that, but
Yeah.
they did that for themselves. Like they were trying to raise that bar so that they felt that they were delivering a good performance. They just had such a
Yeah.
such
It's
a
the work.
workman dedicated approach to the performances in this period.
And they're building a canon. They knew, everything's being recorded.
Yeah.
They knew people would listen to this later, and like us, and
Yeah.
they knew that people would be critiquing and breaking things apart. And really, they were trying to. I don't think they wanted the perfect show exactly, because that's a lot of time to try and make everything perfect. I think they really wanted to just explore.
Right.
And find the little nooks and crannies, and also try and build songs out of exploring, I would think.
Right.
Just like, I think they're taking more of what a band does in rehearsal out onto the stage this tour. And you feel it. Like, that's something you do in rehearsal.
Right.
It's, well, we've played this song a million times. I know we need to brush up on it before the show, so we'll brush up on it, but we're going to toy around with some sections because, we know this inside and out, and, someone will play one note and then everyone will just tweak something, and all of a sudden it opens up a new door that you never knew existed in that song.
Right.
And I think that's why the Bathtub Gin is so talked about, even though I don't think it's as good as everybody thinks.
Yeah.
But
I think it does have we'll get there. Okay, so so
My Mind's Got a Mind of Its Own.
right. Always love it. Well played.
Yeah, tight, short. I love when they sneak bluegrass in.
Yeah.
I always feel like I need it. It's ballads and bluegrass.
Yeah.
I think we always need them.
I agree.
And then horn.
Yeah, speaking of ballads. Yeah.
Which I wrote after this, possibly one of my favorite horns I've ever heard too.
Right. I say
And
this. I'd say it falls into a similar category for the Fluffhead with me, where the composed section is not flawless and like the vocals are just a hair off.
Yeah. But it's unique.
It is very unique for the same reason I kind of said with the kind of rhythm stuff. But yeah, and it's quiet, it's patient, and his solo is just searing and emotional and by the time it's over, you just feel like, whoa.
I feel like the cacophony it builds reminds me more, and this is the first time that we've heard this in our progressive listening for the podcast. It sounds like 94, 95 Phish.
Yeah.
Like it sounded future Phish. That big, slamming, kind of piano hitting hard, building more of like a sheer metal cacophony kind of sound to things, rather than, the jazzier, classical jazz,
right,
fast, compositional. I thought this was a really interesting emotional push in the set, but also for the band.
I agree, and those are my favorite. That's my favorite period, I think, for Phish ballads, because later they got like more smoothed out and beautiful, and I have heard some great horns in 3.0 and stuff, but yeah, they don't have the emotional resonance of that period.
Sample in a Jar, ballad or not?
No,
I say it's almost a ballad. The tempo isn't too fast.
Right.
It's got the big solo in the middle. It's almost just an upbeat ballad. I'm digressing.
Almost.
Yeah. And then Bowie, which also, I believe, has headphones.
Yeah.
Yes.
As it should.
As it should. Yeah. And this was, I just wrote tight AF, of course. But it's, the intro was great.
Yeah.
And then, I remember listening to this one only because there's like this first beat of the jam section and it just snaps. Right. And I remember that one moment. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this Bowie almost just from that.
Yeah.
And then this is the best example of segues through some other songs, especially Phish songs, done perfectly.
Right.
I mean, what I recently...
Well, they did Mango, and the Mango almost just kind of like slid right by me. It was like so perfectly worked into the song.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's like he just kind of hits the end, and then the last note where normally it would do the dun dun dun,
Yeah.
they just skip right over that and move on. And then the Manteca also is
Right.
it's so slick and it's so well done. Recently we were discussing a show where they smashed a bunch of, which one was it? The Anaconda Theater. Where there were just a bunch of, I think that's what it was, where Trey just started playing random lines from other Phish songs.
Right. That was...
This is not that.
That was the Roxy.
Oh, that was the Roxy. Thank you. This is the opposite of that.
Yes.
These are cleanly inserted ideas into a beautiful composition.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote that it kind of started, the intro was a little dark, and then it kind of hit into like a kind of a classical music vibe for a second in the intro. But then one of the things that kind of stood out about this Bowie for me, aside from a lot of the things you mentioned, was that Mike was just playing these like incredible sort of moody descending bass lines throughout the thing, where I was just like, man, listen to Mike go. And just the way the band was reacting to him and playing with him, and just kind of like listening to what I felt like they were kind of reacting to Mike. At least that's how I heard it. But I definitely got that sense of where we're kind of towards the end of the Bowie, and I thought, where did they come up with this shit on the spot? You know, like, there are so many times in Phish jams where, even as someone who's been listening for years, you start to question yourself, did they work this out beforehand? Like, is this an idea that they were kind of consciously bringing to the table? Did this organically happen because of something they heard from the other band? And I like getting lost in those moments, trying to figure it out. And I also particularly like never knowing. And that's good, because I don't think the band knows, and I don't think anybody knows. I think it's just sort of something that we're supposed to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, and I really like you said with Mike, both the Bowie and in the Mike's later, he's given a lot of leash and he runs with it, which I think this is, 93 for Mike Gordon bass. I mean, being a bass player, I'm keenly attuned to that in the mix, but he really was just a unique player.
Oh yeah.
He got much more clean, and he's always been unique, but later in his career he was a dominant force in a different way, and his confidence just was huge. At this point, he is a weird player.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a very unique human, I believe, from what little I know. But he comes off as a very unique human. And I think this is the quirky side of him really comes out in his bass playing around the 93, 94 era. And this show, it's great.
Well, because other bass players just don't play like this. They don't,
He found his voice.
Yes.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
No one plays like Mike Gordon. And that's the highest compliment you can give anyone, is play a couple lines and be like, I know who that is.
Right.
And I think that's what separates Phish, is all four of them can do that.
Right.
But yes, A plus Bowie. I really There were a few that I went and listened to again right
Uh-huh.
after I listened to them in this set, and this was one. It's like,
Me
I'm
too.
just going to start that again. That was so great. Why not?
And that wraps up set 1. So that was a
Yes.
lot of good stuff for a single set.
Yeah, I just wrote at the end of it, full on it factor at this show.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
that's just how I felt at that point. I was jazzed. I was like, please give me more. I was so excited.
And I think that you're right that the band, when they got to that venue, I mean, they probably were like, we're playing Indiana for the first time, so this is an opportunity for us to win over a bunch of new fans. So they had that going for them. And then to go to this small theater, which was unique for them, and to have that on top of it, I'm sure it was all very exciting, and that came through.
Yeah, I'm sure it sounded great in there too. Those old theaters just,
Totally. So starting off the second set, we've got Buried Alive.
Another perfect set opener.
Yeah, another perfect set opener. And actually it got, I mean, it's a short song, but it had a little extra mustard. Kind of like, I mean, it wasn't long or anything, but it had a little jammy element to, like,
some tension building. And
yeah, they came out and said, hey, we're going to play with this a little bit too. Then we went into Rift, which I said it was good. Like, I didn't say it was inspired necessarily for me.
Yeah, I there was a moment again, there's been some really great riffs we've talked about in the earlier episodes. This one isn't one, like you said. Right. It's good.
Yeah.
But there's a moment right when Trey's the first solo starts, he's ripping.
Yeah.
Like he jumps in at a 9 out of 10. And he suddenly kind of senses that's not what he should be doing in that moment.
Right.
And he pulls back. And when he pulls back, the whole band kind of fills in and steps up behind him. And it's such maturity as a player and such big ears as a player to go, guys, I'm fucking this up right now. I'm pushing too hard and I feel like I'm pulling you along and it's breaking apart what we're trying to do. So I'm going to step back. We're all going to get in line and get comfortable again and make sure we're all listening and then drive the bus forward. Huh. And it's a really great example of it. I was very, very, I just thought the maturity of that moment made the song for me.
Well, now I feel I have to go back and listen to it.
It's weird. It's like, it just starts out where it's just high energy, so excited, Buried Alive, coming into set 2. And I'm sure after set 1, they went backstage and they were pumped. Like, guys, we just crushed that. That felt really good. Like, I can't wait to get back on stage. Please, please, please. And they get back out there and then, you're just too pumped up.
Right.
And I felt like that moment in Rift kind of set up the rest of the set of, I'm listening, I'm going a little too hard here. I'm going to pull it all back. And I feel like the rest of the band really appreciated that moment of, okay, we're together here now. And it worked out jumping into the gin directly next.
I buy it. I totally buy that theory.
You talk me through the gin. I got a lot to say, but you...
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed the Fishman commentary, first of all. I want to say, was he saying riding in the bathtub? Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, I had my headphones cranked, and I could barely hear it. But he's saying something to that effect.
Something about getting in the bathtub. We're all getting back in the bathtub, riding in the... Yeah, there's a lot of tub.
But he was just cracking me up. Yeah, and it was like a good energy bathtub gin. To me, like, as far as like, it has a nice jam section in the middle, and then it has like the Weekapah jam. And then, but to me, I like the ending jam the best. So it has that like kind of crazy build at about 3/4 through, which I think the reason why it's so famous, because
the Weekapah-esque,
yeah. But Trey starts doing his machine gun Trey. It gets
engaging.
To your soul. Like,
feels good.
Yeah, it feels good. Like, I was washing the dishes and I had to stop washing the dishes and I had to dance. Like
It's the hose.
I could not control myself. Like I had to stop and I danced. So yes, I mean, if a song does that, it's good shit.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, it did feel a little bit like sort of like maybe like a 94 disjointed tweezer where they're just kind of sticking sections together. Where they're kind of like, they did this section,
Yes.
now they're going to do this section, and then they're going to do this section. And
It was
they do
not
this
fluid.
section. What's that?
It was not fluid.
It was not fluid, correct?
No.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. But I do that post Weekapod jam. They're, again, so listening to each other. I love listening to them listen to each other. And there is like a solid like minute and a half jam there that I just absolutely adore. So yes, I really like the Bathtub Gin. It's great. I think if the Mikes wasn't coming later in the set, I think I would probably be fine with saying either this or the Bowie was the highlight of the show. I mean, I don't think, but at the same time, I can think of at least 10 other Bathtub Gins I prefer to this one.
Yes.
So it's certainly not my favorite Bathtub Gin, but just for Fishman's comments and for the Weekapod jam and then that post Weekapod jam, I'll give it some points. But what do you got?
I'll try not to be long-winded. I got a two-parter.
Okay.
One is a story. So I was in a band at the time that was an all-instrumental band. And this band went through 3 iterations of its main formation. So this was iteration 1. And it was started by me meeting a sax player and drummer that were friends. And then we added a keyboard player. So we had just played a show, and it was in 02. I don't remember. Must have been like 03, 04. But I had finally just gotten this official release, which came out in 02. So it might have been around then.
Yeah.
And I remember after the show, the sax player who lived right around the corner from me hopped in the car, and we were driving home. And I said, man, I know you're not a giant Phish fan, but this show just came out, and this Bathtub Gin, I remember it being insane. And I cranked it up. My truck was really loud, and we listened to it on the drive home. We arrived in front of his house, and he just looked at me and he goes, what the fuck was that horrible shit? And we got in this big fight about, it was about bigger things, but the band, I think the other 3 of us wanted to start to improvise more in the band.
Yeah.
And he was more of a straight ahead saxophone player, and his view of improvisation was very different than ours.
Yeah.
And I think if you play this for the average person who doesn't really know Phish, it's not good.
Right.
And I think it's not just
silly.
the flow.
It's silly. Too.
There's some moments that don't work.
Yeah.
So, and the next day, he stormed out of the car, and then the next day wrote a very official email quitting the band.
Wow.
And never came back.
Yeah.
But we became friends again later and never discussed that very much. We made up. We played music again. He sat in with us later a few times. It was fine.
What a wild story.
It changed his life as a musician in a very negative way.
Yeah.
It was very
That is
weird.
A really visceral reaction to music.
No, he was angry.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had some drinks at the show. Him much more than me because I was driving. But he, and when he drank, he could get a little bit aggressive emotionally that way.
Sure.
Which was fine. But it was a very, very aggressive reaction.
Yeah.
So this gin has a lot of facets in my life.
And for the rest of your life, you wonder, what if I would have played on the mics?
Or what if I had just played that foam, which I thought was, I mean, he came from a jazz background, and I thought that foam was would have really impressed someone as a musician. Like, this is just great.
Right.
But I went to the heavy hitter right off the rip.
Yeah, and even foam or bathtub gin, if you don't have the right personality, the lyrics are just going to turn you off so much to the point that by the time you get to the amazing stuff, your heart's closed already. And I feel bad for those people.
Well, then my take on this gin being possibly the most overrated part of the show. Mm-hmm. So it's fine at the beginning, but then the whole tub, the vocal part, it's goofy, but it gets so dissonant and so strange. I I'm not sure how to feel about it. So
Yeah.
for me, I almost want to skip to like 7 minutes right away.
Right.
And that like the beginning part, I'm sure if you were there and I'm sure the band was having fun with that, but the vocal jam it doesn't really stand up to the repeat listens.
That's funny because I really like those weird, goofy vocal jams just as a personal preference. But I know
Sure.
I've played them for people before, even Phish fans that are just like, I don't like it when they do that. So
Yeah,
I do
this
think,
one was not.
yeah,
It was so atonal and strange.
right.
I'm not sure how I felt about it.
Fair enough.
And like atonal bass notes really like resonate in my guts real weird. It just was I can't imagine it full volume in a theater. It just would have been uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then I just wrote hose break hose after that.
Yeah.
So it jumps to that, high pressure, Weekapaw-esque jam. Beautiful playing all across the board.
Yeah.
There's moments, it drops out and comes back. And like you said, when it comes back the second time, there's moments there where Paige and Trey are pushing so many notes so fast, so in sync rhythmically.
Yeah.
Like there's moments in the show that are so rhythmically tight and really impressive. And this is one of them.
Yeah.
The hose moments are worth it. But then it kind of drops and the last few minutes are very strange. And around 13-ish, there's a whole new jam. No, it's great.
Yeah.
But around 13-ish, there's a whole nother jam. And then all the screaming starts, which I love screaming. I'm not a fan of these atonal vocal jams, but I'm a big fan of the screaming. Bring me more. And then it segues beautifully into Yamar.
Right.
Really, that's a true arrow. It's really well done.
Yeah.
And I think the screaming, high energy fun just spills into Yamar in this great way.
Right.
And I think that if this Yamar wasn't so tight and done so well with so much joy at the end of this gin, and maybe, it had only had one of those quick Weekapaw-esque hose jams, I don't think it would have the kind of, gravitas it does.
I agree. I agree.
So I get it, and I still like listening to it. But it maybe because it was the most listened to part of the show for me, it didn't have as much freshness and excitement.
Yeah, and I think that's true. What you read, the excerpt from the Fishnet about how it was the fact of that it was bathtub gin and it wasn't ever jammed out, and the fact that it got jammed out. And there are plenty of other songs that's happened to over the years where you're just like, oh, we're jamming out that song now, like Lawn Boy.
So we're jamming on
instance.
Wilson now.
Yeah, and for instance, and since I just brought up Lawn Boy, I just want to say what I think of towards the end of that bathtub gin is, what if you had bought Lawn Boy, the album, and all you knew was that bathtub gin, the studio version.
Yeah, sure.
And then you went to go see this band and they played that bathtub gin. Holy shit.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, your mind would just be blown.
I agree.
Yeah. And then I do want to add that you mentioned hose, break, hose. And in between that, I think that's when Fishman does that when they start building the Weekapaw together. He goes, here we go again. Yeah. And he's like,
back in the bathtub gin. Come on.
Like and I don't know.
I just always picture him with the dress and the little headset microphone at that point, that he always had strapped on his head and just bobbing along, like just muttering and screaming all the time.
To me, that just adds so much joy. I mean, it just gives me the chills during those. It seems like such a simple, stupid thing, but it really puts it over the top for me. So.
The butt with protruding arms and legs.
Then to the Yamar, killer version of Yamar.
Yeah. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yamar is like one of those summertime songs that always makes me happy.
I said great interplay with Mike and Paige, and with Trey knowing to lay back. And then
lots of Leo yelling.
Yeah, and then kind of Trey, I feel like Trey waits for his moment and then comes in perfectly with that sort of like beautiful kind of soft tone, that island plucky tone, which is really great.
And then Mike's.
So I remember when at least the first time I heard this Mike's, and I'm pretty sure it was the first time you heard it too. I could be wrong, but just the first 40 seconds, you're like, all right, there it is. I mean, the first 40 seconds of this Mike's, just like the lengthwise at the beginning of the show, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be unbelievable. Like, what just happened in the first 40 seconds of that song?
It's unique.
Yeah.
And they take little moments to make it different.
Yeah. I always think of the beginning of this Mike's and the 12/6/97 tweezer, the beginning of that as well, where they just kind of like, they took their time to make this little intro to the song its own little special moment in the show.
Yeah, and it was tight.
Yeah.
It was really, like, you could, the band, they all picked up on what was happening and how to augment it really quickly, and they just did a great job.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about the Mike's a little bit?
Well, it gets to the jam section, and I just wrote that Mike just really gets at it right away.
Yeah.
And, he really is aggressive about those, the quick descending lines over and over, and even has some weird high lines. I love it. I think it's him. I think they give this song over to Mike a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great. Quick high energy jam after, and then Mike leads this beautiful, slow, melancholy kind of, it's sad and kind of has a minor feel to it, and is slightly atonal, and then into a very strange vocal jam. Right. And like all of it was so, I mean, I remember listening to this Bathtub Gin and being so floored years and years ago, and then listening to this Mike's and going, yeah, this is pretty good. I'm flipped on it now. Where I listen to Bathtub Gin, I know the high points, I like them, but this Mike's really, I was very impressed.
Well, first of all, it goes straight up Type 2. So I don't think there's any denying that this is a Type 2
different
Mike's.
way.
Yeah. And yeah, the vocal jam is like, it's its own song. Like that whole section is its own composition. It's a spontaneous composition. It reminds me a lot of I want to say it was the Piper from Festival 8 that had kind of its own kind of deal. And then did the Yem from Shoreline 98. I meant to research this before the podcast. Apologies, everyone. But yeah, there are some moments in Phish history where they do kind of break into these weird sort of like vocal things where you're like, wait, is that a new song? Are you guys
and they're not speaking English per se?
Something out?
they're making words up as well.
Right.
Like, and in such a, and like the high screams over the top of it, it's big, brooding masterpiece kind of stuff, purely improvised. Like this is that moment where, when you said earlier, I wonder if they work on this stuff in the practice room. Like they come up with ideas and they're like, we're going to do this tonight. This one felt that orchestrated already, but I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure they just on the spot were able to improvise what felt like a new song.
Trace it to Mike's bass line. I really feel like you can trace all of the progression of the jam bass to when or right from when he kind of takes off on that bass line.
And I think moment one of the, when it jumps into the jam, when he's so aggressive with all those lines, I think the rest of the band's like, all right,
Yeah.
And then when Trey comes in with his solo and kind of builds it up for a minute, I think they hand the ball back to Mike and let him really run with that odd atonal feel that builds into just, really one of the high points of the set, if not the high point. It was great.
Yeah. To me, this is one of
and
the
then
big...
Stranglehold.
Yeah. Totally. But yeah, this is one of the big jams of August '93 for me. Is this Mike's for my money?
Yeah, and it's not long. It's just like everything else in this show. It just delivers top to bottom.
Yeah,
there are no. I mean, I've listened to enough Phish where there's sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna skip a little bit to get to the good part.
Yeah.
This is like note 1 to last note, all good part.
Yeah.
Like I just said in Bathtub Gin, skip the first 7 minutes.
That's what's so amazing about a 10-minute Phish jam that I think that so many people overlook, and they just automatically always want to go to the 20+ minute jams. But there are plenty 10-minute jams that have as much in them, and this is certainly one of them.
Agreed.
Yeah, it gets weird. It kind of, I don't know why some jams remind me of other jams, even though they're not aesthetically the same. But for some reason, this jam also, it reminds me of that Piper from Festival A, but also kind of reminds me of the song I heard the Ocean sing from The Baker's Dozen.
Sure.
And that, like, it just, they're just listening, and it gets weird, and it just gets out there, and it gets into a place that is very uniquely Phish. And that's what I love. So
yeah, no, it was great. And into the ballad, which was needed as a cool down.
Yeah.
Of Lifeboy. And I thought that this highlighted in that what would be traditionally called the solo section.
Right.
It highlights what makes Phish so great, is that it's a 1.5-minute 4-chord progression. No one solos.
Right.
It's the ability of 4 people to be one perfectly. It's gorgeously done. I think after this Mike's Lifeboy as a sandwich together is like, I'm pretty sure my psychedelic days are behind me.
Yeah.
Although, you read like Bill Bruford's book and all these new people are like getting out there in late life psychedelia. I think they're behind me. But if they weren't, and I was to venture that path again, well something to path. This would be one of the things I would want to listen to, is that sandwich.
Yeah.
They're just so beautiful, and it's so out there, and to have my mind as open as it could be to go down the road with these two would just be great.
I feel the same way as you about psychedelics, but I do have a little mix just in case of stuff that
you never know.
got to heard that I would. The last time, actually, I did it, I listened to the Down with Disease from The Great Went, which was like something that I had, I mean, I've listened to many times and I like it, but it was really great, especially like
Yeah.
the end part when it just got super sparse and there was very little going on and they were just kind of joking. I was like, oh my God, this feels tremendous.
That was a big venue to be at too. Yeah.
I know you're right about the Lifeboy and that they all really work together, but I did write in caps, Page, Page, baby.
Yeah, he's the Lifeboy star, but he even makes sure to keep the reins on. It's really great.
Yeah.
Really great. And some of the shows we've done at this point would falter. They'd have that fourth quarter kind of blah.
Right.
Not this one.
No.
Because the Okie Pa Susie that's next was just wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the Page vehicle for me. Was that Susie? But
Right.
Okie Pa is just perfect, tight as can be, and then that Susie was just. I think I called it a rhythmic masterpiece of piano playing.
Yeah.
Like it is. A lot of piano players like to get flashy and show off how fast they can play, and I think Page can play fast when that's what he's just trying to accomplish. But this was so on rhythm.
Right.
And showing off the piano as a rhythmic instrument, meshing with Fishman so well. It was amazing. Just amazing. You'd be dancing your ass off if you were there at the end of this.
Yeah,
very
like an Okie Susie set closer at the end of like an amazing show. It's just phenomenal. And then
the perfect encore, I guess.
Yeah, encore. We got Amazing Grace, Highway to Hell.
And hearing the audience in Amazing Grace too. They're just people are fired up.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel the emotion through that. They got to crank it up because it's a cappella, no mics a lot of the time. So
I mean, just think of that pairing. Yeah. I mean, Amazing Grace.
It's perfect.
Into Highway to Hell.
Highway to Hell. It's perfect. And the Highway to Hell is so great. It's just swaggery confidence.
Yeah.
And
it speaks to their sense of humor.
And I love AC/DC. I grew up on AC/DC. I loved them when I was, 10, 11, 12. I had some real moments at that point in my life, like going to a carnival and having that on a ride and kissing a girl, that AC/DC really taps into that, like, young tween-age rocker in me. And it just fist pumps perfect at the end of the show.
Totally. And I think like another kind of dimension to that is that they are so not on a highway to hell. Like they're just like clean cut, dude. Like it's just like, especially the way they dressed at that time. They're just like nerdy goobers that basically only do good deeds and have smiles on their faces. They wear, bright colors. They're not wearing all black. And just to like have them play, Highway to Hell with such conviction and passion, there is an irony to it that is you can't hear in the musical performance, because the musical performance itself is just it's blistering classic rock, but just like to be able to like watch
every bar band is jealous.
There completely changes the tone of that experience.
After everything it's throwing a whole nother, both encore songs are throwing two more styles of music on top of the gigantic pile they built already.
Yeah, I mean, and
it's gross. Yeah. And
I mean, I think this is why so many people have a hard time with Phish, and that they're just like, I don't like all these styles of music. Why would I want to hear that all in one band, you know? I do.
Yeah, and I think earlier, we could go all the way back to the 80s, episode 1. A lot of the songs Phish was choosing to cover were songs from bands they loved, songs from bands that they wanted to really showcase their playing with, and songs from bands that I think would help them mature as players. And now the covers they're choosing are songs that are totally outside of the style of music that they play as Phish music.
Yeah.
You know, it's bluegrass, it's Yamar, like island vibe music. It's Amazing Grace and it's Highway to Hell. Like, that doesn't make any sense with the rest of the music in the show. And I think it shows that they have a style of writing, and that their covers are going to augment and fill out a more diverse show, so people aren't just hit in the head with, you know, Bathtub Gin straight into Mike, straight into Susie. Like, they're able to have a little bit more diversity and depth in the way they structure a set list. And it's really smartly done. And at this point, I'm assuming Trey's writing every list.
Right.
And to sit down and write this list was like, it is. I mean, you got to laugh while writing it. Be like, this is going to be silly. We're going to do this, and then, oh my God, this is going to be perfect, and we're going to want to cool down here, and then
I think that's
it really
why he
was.
Always had that shit-eating grin on his face.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's always why he looked like that. It's because he was just excited about what he was going to share with us.
Yeah, I really want there to be a proper, I don't know about coffee table, or if there's a website that somehow is designed this way, of photographs from Phish shows.
Yeah.
Because I know that I have personal photographs at shows of friends and stuff, but ones of just the band from different angles.
Yeah.
And you can't find them. Like, I was hunting up, are there pictures of any of these shows? And you just can't find them.
Huh, yeah.
There needs to be some sort of open sourced, send in scans of your Phish pics from all these shows and date them, and we'll organize it all in this giant database.
Yeah, every now and then
look at them.
Every now and then on Twitter, this guy Lawn Memo, he does a thing where he's like, I'm going to do this thing on this show. Send me, everybody, if you have pictures of the show, if you have any memorabilia from this show, send it to me, and I'm going to archive it all into this big thing. And then he does like a big story, and then you read about it or whatever. But yeah, it would be nice if somebody did that as a whole. Big coffee table book would be great. I mean, every year or so I pick up my Phish book and I look through all the pictures.
Yeah,
just because it's gorgeous and it makes me happy.
Yeah, I compiled all mine into a book, you know, tickets and photos, and it brings great memories back.
It's nice to know that there's this girl, her name is, her site is like Azen Pics or whatever, but she's been photographing Phish for years, and so she just does the lights. But I mean, cool. She has incredible photographs of the lights, you know. So whenever I feel like, I want to like show somebody like what the lights really look like,
Hmm.
It's tough to find a video, but every now and then you find like a photo that you're just like, look at that
Yep.
photo.
Yeah.
And she's doing an amazing job. I hope she comes out with a book one day. I know the band's kind of recognized her presence, so that's cool.
Yeah, at this point it was, I'm really familiar from 94 on with the stage setup.
Yeah.
But did they have the Minkins at this point?
At this point, yeah.
I'm not sure. The
I think
Minkin backdrops.
I think they did, yeah, because I watched, at least they did in May, because I was watching a video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Minkins, and it were much simpler lighting.
Simple lights.
But it's still, Chris Caruto was there, so
Yeah.
it's still, the lighting was part of the show at this point.
Yeah, because the lighting
these theaters just
cues up with the
so
changes
fun.
in the music, and that's what makes it unique. I mean, the first time like I ever saw that outside of Phish was at this Japanese guy Cornelius. They had like a show where they used a computer to kind of do it, and it was all planned out because it wasn't an improvised show.
Yeah.
But that sensation of the lights in the room completely changing at exact moment that the music does was, I mean, even through the big shows that I saw, like Guns N' Roses
Radiohead
or
at the
Nine Inch
Hollywood
Nail
Bowl
or
with
Jane's
me.
Addiction, they had lights, but it was never queued up like that. So that it had
Radiohead at the Hollywood Bowl, you and me.
Yeah, that was later. Yeah, that's supposed to.
But that was synced up lighting.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hollywood Bowl is so beautiful, the light, but that was something else.
Yeah, Radiohead gets its own
Yeah.
kudos for live performance. They're something else too.
Yeah.
Well, I think we hit the end of the show. I know sometimes we recommend things at the end of the show. I just want to recommend this movie real quick that I just discovered last night. And I know that probably a lot of you will not be able to have access to this movie, at least not easily. But it's called White Rock. And what it is it's a documentary about this 1976 Winter Olympics. And it's on the Criterion channel. That's where I found it. It was in the staff picks. But basically, it's like they used film cameras to kind of film different events in the 1976 Winter Olympics, right? But it's edited and put together as if the people that made it were probably on psychedelics. It's certainly of its era. It's very trippy. And the music is by Rick Wakeman. So it has like crazy prog keyboards, and then they're kind of like matching the visuals to the keyboards. And then as like a triple bonus, it has James Coburn, who's kind of like pretending he's one of the Olympians. So he dresses up and he does their sports with them, and then he narrates in a very serious way. My best comparison would be it feels like Wes Anderson made a movie of the 76 Olympics kind of mocking it in a sort of loving, funny way. But it's a wild fucking ride. Like, get this movie. Yeah. White Rock.
White Rock.
It's worth it to just do the Criterion 7-day trial. Like, I mean, if you don't want to pay $10 a month for the Criterion, do the 7-day. And just like kind of go through there and find some stuff.
You can watch a few things.
They actually have the Olympics. They have like 3 or 4. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but they have 3 or 4 hour movies of every Olympics since 1915. And I've watched the 1984 Summer Olympics
on Criterion.
Yeah, on Criterion.
Oh wow,
and it's amazing. Like just to see the nostalgia that comes back, to watch Mary Lou Retton win again, and Greg Louganis, and
we're potentially about. I mean, I'm a giant Olympics fan.
Yeah.
We're potentially about to have back-to-back Olympics.
I know. Yeah.
Japan is still up in the air, and I just heard today the majority of Japanese want to not have the Olympics. So we'll see how this plays out. But they're saying summer Japan, winter China, like 6 months apart.
That's cool. I mean, I love the Olympics and I love to watch the sports itself, but like the advertising and all the commentary, it just really takes it out of me. So to be able to watch it in this
Condense
form,
it down,
where it's just the events, it's just the important parts of the events, maybe a little bit of backstory to give it some drama. It's all filmed on film, actual film instead of video. So it has that sort of like beautiful look. Really, really powerful and stunning to watch.
Dad's week vacation, we rent a house, we do a 7-day trial of Criterion, and we just watch everything. I'm there. I'll be there.
Sounds amazing.
For me, music-wise, I'd heard about how Jack Stratton from Wolfpack does these Holy Trinities. And he did a new one recently that's the Holy Trinities of Aretha Franklin bass players. It's a little YouTube video you can find. But then through Spotify...
Oh, okay. Yes, I know those videos, the Holy Trinity. Okay,
yes.
Got it. Yes.
And this is a bass players, and I loved it.
Okay.
And you can go onto Spotify, and they both have a Holy Trinities playlist you can listen to.
Oh, cool.
But they also have a bunch of both Chuck Rainey and Tommy Cogbill playlists. And these two men, I mean, all three bassists were great, but these two men played on everything.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And you're like, you start to go through them, and you realize, like, Tommy Cogbill played on so many songs that you absolutely love to death, and you can't believe that you didn't know his name.
Yeah.
And then Chuck Rainey, again, so many songs, but so many weird, diverse songs, like Steely Dan to Donald Byrd to Tim Buckley. Like, he's all over the place.
Him I know.
But it's really cool.
Yeah, I don't know that other guy. I'll have to look into that.
They're just session players.
Yeah.
And these are like session guys who, instead of joining a band and going on the road and living that life, they're like, I just live near the studio, and I'm going to have a life, and I'm going to go into the studio and record with all the best bands every day.
Right.
And it was a real fun journey to take. You know, I like mixes, and they're like kind of customized mixes based on the bass player.
Totally.
So, big fan.
Well, that sounds great.
Rhythm sections, and yeah, I didn't quite realize also how insanely funky Aretha Franklin was later in her career. I think I missed out on it, and he discusses a song, Rock Steady. And then, I'm sorry, not Rock Steady. What a Fool Believes. Okay. Do you know What a Fool Believes?
No, I
I've
don't.
never heard this song before in my entire life.
Okay.
And it is Aretha Franklin, What a Fool Believes.
Are there any albums from the later period that we should be checking out, or did they just kind of send you to singles?
It was just, I only listened to that song.
Okay.
And then I listened to it like 6 times in a row.
Okay.
But it makes me want to go listen to the whole album and spend more time with that, 80s period Aretha that I'm not familiar with.
Well, we'll be doing that before the next episode.
Again, Wolfpack plugging me into new stuff.
Yeah.
And then next time we're literally one day later.
Yep.
8:14 in Chicago.
With an incredibly different kind of show. Yeah. Massive
theater.
Yeah.
But as beloved as 8:13. So I can't wait to get into it.
Totally. Well, that was great, Sam. We'll talk soon, and take care, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
And we're out. Hello there, friends, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or would like to reach out to Ian and I about anything at all, you can find us at companion2thecompanion@gmail.com.